Do you know the man standing at the microphone? If you do, you may be able to answer the questions today on GrandDad and Me.
It's a great life for GrandDad and me.
Okay, Allie-Grace, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
You've lived about a third as long a life as I have. So I have some questions. I'm trying to put myself back at your age and think about what would I be thinking of if I was your age, and what my concerns were at 25 or around 25, and what your concerns about are I know they have to be different for all kind of reasons, just history and the times we each are living in. What is something that that your time here on this planet that you've learned that's at this point in your life that you really treasure? You're so glad you've gotten to this point in your life where I'm taking this with me as I go along.
I mean, a few things, right? I mean, there's been so many battles and triumphs that we've had, but I think a really big one for me is just not allowing outside opinion or, negative interactions from people, not letting that affect me in the core of me. Just growing up in sports and in school and all of the fun things, you can get catty with people sometimes, and sometimes people can be quite mean. And so I feel like just not taking that too much to heart and not letting that truly defeat you has been a really, really big one for me, and just being confident in who I am and knowing, nope, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and if you're not okay with it, then that's okay. I'm gonna keep on trucking, That's been a really, really big one for me. What about you?
I I think I share that. It's taken me a while not to care. I think I'm a people pleaser, like most people are, try to be. And, it directed my life before. And as I've gotten older, I've really gotten away from that. I'm not saying I'm my own man. My personal faith takes me in a direction where I never feel on my own because of my relationship with God through Jesus. And, but I do think and I sure don't want to use the word evolve because I don't feel like I've evolved at all, but I have changed, and things do matter less to me. As you get older, you do find that things that you thought were important when you were much younger really aren't all that important. And, goals that you set for yourself are very short term, very, 6 months from now kind of things. And, of course, when you get to be my age, you, you start thinking about, you don't buy green bananas, and as a joke, you think about, you think about not planning for, this may not, may not be here tomorrow. And, right now, I feel like my chances are pretty good that I'll see you Wednesday or Thursday of next week. But,
Yeah.
but you do think it does change your whole thinking. And the guys I hang out with that are older, it does really color us. You think a lot about, what legacy things, what you're leaving behind, that kind of things, how you want to be remembered. I don't think anybody much anymore thinks about how many people are coming to my funeral, that kind of stuff. But I do think you want, especially about family like you and your brother and sister, and you do, that does really come into effect. It colors a lot of the choices you make. Yeah, it has shifted a lot over time. Of course, when you're working in my work life, and I had clients and, deadlines, and that was kind of, right here in my face, and I had to deal with that. And so that once that was stopped, I stopped having those kind of deadlines, and I could just take a breath and look around, and it does change your point of view when you're not obstructed by things right in your face, when those
Right.
things move, you get a panorama view of life, and that changes literally your point of view, and I think it gives you more clarity, hopefully more clarity.
Mm-hmm. And it really kind of like you said, like whenever you have everything right here, those are the biggest problems in the whole world. And when you
Right.
can step back from it, you're like, gosh, why did I stress about that? Or why
Oh,
was really rocking my world when this situation happened? And you step back and you're like, that was just a blip, like that is really not the end of the world. That's just also an easier way to kind of be like, okay, there is a bigger picture here. I can relax a little bit. That's a good
yeah.
lesson to learn.
Boy, that is so important to learn, that you can relax. It's not gonna, and of course, experience is a lovely teacher, because you do learn that, thing I worried about so much, it only had about a 5% chance of happening anyway, and if it did, I'm gonna deal with it. So that whole, if you can, your great grandmother, my mom, was, she was a professional warrior. She turned pro about 13 or 14, I think. And she could worry like nobody I ever knew. And sweet, sweet. And the things she worried about was because she was so sweet and she cared so much. And she didn't worry about herself. She worried about all kind of other things. And so, and I, that's a genetic thing she passed along to me, was the worry gene. But I've
Mhm.
gotten a whole lot better about just like, yeah, not that I'm not concerned, but I try not to just let that, the
Let it consume you.
the
Yeah.
probabilities are so tiny that we could get hit by an asteroid tomorrow. I'm not going to stay up tonight worrying about, wearing a hard hat in case it comes through the roof. So,
Right. Yeah.
so I try to get past a lot of that. And it makes a difference. And yeah, I think,
And that's a great place to be, especially just where you're at in life, where I'm at in life. Like I'm so thankful that I've at least been able to realize that like I don't need to worry about that, or I don't need to stress about that to the max. It's a really hard thing to actually act on. But how about like if you, since you're already in that place now, you're able to kind of step back, not worry so much. If you could go back to your 24-year-old self, kind of the
mm,
age that I'm at now, what would you tell yourself? Would you give yourself any advice?
um, yeah, I would, uh, suddenly a whole bunch of personal things kind of washed over me. But it's true. I would make some different choices. I, but I'd also cut myself more slack. That, um, I would, I always worried about, when I was one of the other times we spoke, you asked me about dating, and, and one of the things that I learned that is really critical to me, and it only had to do with dating, and the fact that if I was going to call a girl and ask her out for a date, I would actually pretty much write a script about what I was going to say to her, because I was so terrified. And so when she would answer, I'd say, and regardless of her response, I would say the next thing, which of course made me sound like a lunatic. And
That's awesome.
and I had no idea what she said. And I lived my life that way for a long time. I was so in my own script and worrying about my script and what I was writing that I didn't stop to listen.
Mhm.
And a couple of things happened in my life when I stopped and started listening. And part of it had to do with my job as an interviewer, and doing things like we're doing right now, and asking questions. You have to listen for the answer,
Mhm.
and then you can build on top of that answer. And when that dynamic of talking but also listening and then reacting to what that person said, um, changes my life, because
Mhm.
really and truly, I mean, I was late in life before I stopped talking, and trying to get to the next thing I had to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd wait for a breath, somebody to take a breath, and I'd get in there with my shot. And that was a huge lesson to start listening. It sounds so almost cliched, but it's boy, it made a big difference in my life when I started listening.
I mean, that's a huge thing, and
What?
I catch myself doing that as well, that,
Sorry. I can't pass up that
I know. No, I'll catch myself doing that too, especially in like an interview or for a job or for a conversation that I needed to prep for in any sort of way. I'll
Right.
have my mental list of questions and I will try and check them off and be like, okay, I'm supposed to do this, this, then this. And I can so picture myself at a certain point. I remember asking somebody a question, they answered, and I asked the follow-up question that I had in my brain, and they were like, what? Like, that's not, where are you? And I was like, you're going off script. Like, and so I completely understand what you're saying, being able to speak but actually really wanting to hear the person that's sitting across from you or you're talking to.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing.
Because, when we get to do this show, and people tell us their stories, my grandmother, when I was really tiny, and I hated to take naps. I didn't want to take a nap. And the only way she got me to take naps was she would start telling me stories about the ranch. She grew up on a ranch, and she would tell me these stories. I would lay down and listen to her tell these wonderful stories about horses and cows and rattlesnakes and hired hands and, things that happened, and riding a horse to school and all these wonderful stories. And I would just drift off to sleep. And what a wonderful way to go to sleep, listening to stories like that. And the rest of my life, I was either listening to them or trying to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're a great storyteller.
Well, thanks.
You really are.
But another thing that we can do this all day. I can do this all day. But when I was little, my mother wouldn't let me say lie. I couldn't use the word lie.
Okay.
Nobody ever lied. They told stories. And I always found that very, very odd and kind of confusing, that because I love stories so much, and if you made up a fiction, and that's basically what she was saying, if you made up a fiction about something, you were lying about it. But they were telling stories. And now so much of my life is spent on either telling stories or listening to stories, Interesting.
What an interesting way to vocalize that, though. Like, you're telling a story, because that is a positive thing, is telling a story. But I can also see like where she was coming from. Like, you're making up a story, and so that's so interesting.
And speaking of stories, if you play along with Photographic Memories, you can get a free Flunked Sunday School audiobook featuring Lloyd Boyd.
I'm Lloyd Boyd, and I'm trying to serve. Being a personal preacher takes a little nerve. I try to do what I'm supposed to, but I can get fooled. 'Cause after all, I did flunk Sunday school.
It's time to play Photographic Memories.
Okay, how'd you do on Photographic Memories? Stay tuned, and right after Allie-Grace closes us out, you'll see how to get your free Flunked Sunday School audiobook.
You know, I would also love to hear if anybody watching has any life advice or something that they would tell their younger self. I would love to hear that. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see everyone next week.
All right, now to get your free Flunked Sunday School audiobook download, just look down below for the link, free audiobook link. Enjoy, and send it on to some other folks too. That's free too.